So I just thought it might be fun for you to try making a Collagraph mandala, and I thought I'd show you my process and you can follow along and do it your way. So what I've done, it's actually quite big, this one, and I've cut it out of, this is actually some quite heavy cardboard. So I had to measure it out and then cut it out very carefully with a Stanley knife, or whatever you call them, craft knife. And so I now have the piece, and I had to find the dead center because I decided I was going to do quite a formal one, just so that it would be easy to sort of work out all the pattern. But of course it could also be a very free-form one, but just to make it more challenging, I think we'll do it as a structured one. And I found these little pieces in my box of materials. It's actually from tofu in New Zealand. You might be able to see it says crafted in New Zealand. And there was this lovely little cutout as part of it, and part of the packing box. And so I've just cut it into a little shape, and I'm sort of thinking now, where could I use them? I just couldn't bear to throw these out because they're really, really nice. So I could sort of, for instance, well actually, let me just explain this first. I found the dead center, obviously, and I divided it up and started just by using this, making shapes on it and making it all very regular. I'm sure you'll be able to have fun doing that. And then I had taken these little pieces here, and I just drew a little shape in here and there, and then I'm just looking at what I could do, whether I could put them in like that or out the other way, matching up to the piece. I could either put them further in or have them touching at the points that I've already drawn here, or I could put them somewhere else completely. I could put them and line them up with the center bits like that. As I say, this is a pretty formal pattern, but I just thought it might be fun. So this is just to sort of give me a little bit of an idea of what I might do. And I'm going to cut into the card and make some areas quite deep, and so at the top level will have a sort of shiny finish from the card that's already here. And when I cut into some of these areas, I'll have a rough surface where I peel the paper off. And that will give the ink will sink into those rough areas more than it will sit on these when I come to inking it up and putting it through the press. So that's where I am at the moment. And then I found this little figure somewhere, and I thought, well, I could even put a little figure, and he's not showing up very much. Or I might put some other little motif that I find or draw and put in. And then I'm going to be using paint as well to make some texture, and probably some sand or carborundum to make some very dark areas. And at the moment I'm just sort of thinking about it, so you might like to get to this stage and cut up a piece of card into a round shape and start planning out whether you want, if you want to, play along with me and see where it leads. But it can be formal, or it can be just quite structured as this one is. It just depends what you feel like doing. I think doing one of each would be quite fun, actually. So this is where we're at this stage, and I'll do another a video showing you what I do next, and post that in a day or so. So in the last video I showed you about creating this mandala, I had got to the place where I had drawn out the design, and talked a little bit about whether it was a structured design or it was going to be a pretty loose and random one. And as you can see, this one's pretty structured. So where I'm at now is I had cut out the areas here, 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 and here, because they're rougher and they'll absorb the ink a lot more, whereas these smoother areas, the ink won't stay on as much when I wipe it, whereas it'll stay really strong in these areas. These leafy sort of shapes, I've used a scribing tool, see that there, and really pressed hard to draw those lines in. I haven't drawn this line in because I don't think I want it. And I've also cut these little pieces out in some really nice material. Well, it's not material, it's actually a textured paper. And I've glued those on. So they're going to, they have little shiny bits in between them. I don't know whether you can see that in the picture. But they'll print up really nicely because of the texture and the sort of shiny little bits in between. I think you can probably see that in the video. And so if you remember, I also had these pieces that were out of a yoga packet that had this nice cutout that was so perfect. I could never create one as perfect as that by cutting it out. So I chopped them into these little pieces, which aren't exactly identical, but they're fairly close. And I'm not sure where I'm going to put those. I might put them in here, like so, pointing to the other little point. Or I could put them, as I think I said the other day, I could also put them like so, to make like a second row of leaves or whatever in here. Actually, seeing it now, I think that actually might be a bit nicer, because it sort of breaks up these spots. And I'm trying to think what I might put on here. And I may put, I think I'm going to cut these bits out so that there'll be light colour, darker colour, textured, darker, light, all the way around. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to put something else in here as well. I could put a bit of a pattern here, or I could put some pattern in between these sort of leafy shapes here. I haven't decided yet. I'll just see what happens as I go along. But that's where I'm at the moment, and it's sort of quite fun. I'm enjoying doing it. So the next video will be another stage further. So here we are again with the plate that I've worked a little bit more on for the mandala. And you'll see that some parts have got a goldy colour on it. It reflects really nicely in the video. But the only reason for doing that is that I wanted some texture on these pieces, so the paint will give it some texture, but also it will show up more for you so you can actually see what's there, because with everything white it's a bit difficult to see. And it will wipe, the ink will wipe off fairly easily off these areas, whereas it will sink in and print stronger in these areas that are rougher and there's no finish on them. I gave away using the little heart-shaped pieces, which were quite cute, but I decided I'd put these bits of textured paper on instead. And then I decided, I got a bit carried away and cut these sort of shapes out. It does tend to show up that my dividing up the actual circle into the shapes wasn't exactly very precise, but that's all right. It sort of gives it a more natural look, even though it is quite a formal design. And in these areas, I don't know whether you can see them. I'll see if I can get it up really close. You'll see I've pressed in to these areas with this tool. I'm trying to get this so I can show you. Yeah, there, that's better. So that it's indented, so hopefully the ink's going to sit in those areas when I wipe the plate before it's printed. And I've also done it into these lines in here, those ones on each one, and down on here as well. And if you look really, really closely, you should be able to see I've pushed in with this another little tool I've got that's got not as pointy an end on it to make random patterns in these little areas. So the next stage will be to put some shellac on, and I love that stage actually because the brown colour of the shellac actually shows up what's going to it more or less shows how it will print. And it's just lovely to see it when it's at that stage. It's sort of, you feel as though you're getting somewhere. Well, hopefully you do. Anyway, so this is where it's at the moment, and the next video will have the shellac on it. So I hope you're trying this process and yours is going well. I'll see you in the next video. So here you can see me putting the shellac on, and you can see already how the different areas are going to take the ink when it comes to putting it on. So you can see the design is starting to show up already. And you can probably see, well, I hope you can see that there's a difference between this area and that area. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually print. But you can definitely see where I have torn the paper off, the top layer of the paper off, how easily that absorbs the shellac, and how easily it's going to absorb the ink when I put it on. As I say, this part's always fun because you sort of get to see how it's going to come alive when it gets the ink on. So, made a little mistake there. There's obviously a bit of a tear on the piece of textured paper that I've used for these little ones, and it's going to take the ink more firmly on this side than what it is in the middle. The other thing is, just here there's a little bit of the stuff that I've glued the these little pieces on that has got a bit of the glue on it, so I might have to just rough that little bit up a little bit so it doesn't show as a white spot. I don't like little white spots like that. I might be able to get rid of that with a bit of playing around. You'll see in these pieces too, if I lift them up, see how the shiny paper is not taking the shellac as well. So that'll be the same with the ink, so that that paper will make nice little pieces on around the outside when it's printed. Well, that's the hope. Should do. Nearly done. A lot of people don't pay much attention to the absorbency of the materials you use, but I think it just makes the printmaking so much easier if you recognize that some materials will take the ink much easier than others, and it makes the plate so much easier to wipe. I might have to go round, I forgot to do that, but I might have to go round after it's all dry and just with fine sandpaper all the edges so that there's no little hairy bits anywhere. So, that's it. It's better already, doesn't it? Pity that when I print it in one colour, that the ink's not going to be, that it's not going to be gold. It actually makes the plate quite nice. Well, that's what I just see if I can rough this little bit up a little bit so that it has something on that, so that that white bit's not there. I'll just find something to do that with. So I'm just going to try this. I don't know if it'll work or not. Not enough. It's a bit better. Probably would have been better if I had used a bit of sandpaper than using the thing. But anyway, we'll see. That's it for now. Next job is printing.